Hi everybody, I'm going to give you 10, yes 10 of them, 10 things that are going to help you boost your confidence for your driving test. Before we get started, if you're new to the channel, give it a like, give it a subscribe, and watch out for my next video next week. I'll also put a video at the end and some cards to help you at the same time. So the first tip is know all your manoeuvres. And I know in the past I might have said this on previous videos, but if you don't know your manoeuvres in the UK, the driving test manoeuvres, then what's going to happen is that manoeuvre that you don't know is going to crop up on your driving test and you're going to make a mistake on it. And it's going to knock your confidence and it's going to affect your driving. You're going to be worried about the fact that it's gone wrong and you're probably going to make a serious mistake at the same time. So know all the 4 manoeuvres for the UK driving test, and wherever you're taking your driving test around the world, know the manoeuvres for the driving test for that at the same time. Number 2 is expect setbacks. There's going to be lessons leading up to your driving test where it's not going to go according to plan. You're going to have a lesson where maybe you're stalling if you're using a manual car, or you just forget to check your right shoulder, or you forget to do something silly that you know you can do. That's quite normal, because what tends to happen with lots of people is a week or two before the test, 3 weeks before the test, they start doing a little dip in the standard. Just remember, leading up to that, it's been quite consistent, and that's normal. Don't worry about it. Expect setbacks, and it's not going to put too much pressure on you. So the third one is the show me tell me questions, and I know some people think, oh, I'll get a series for that, but if you don't know the questions, you're putting pressure on yourself. If you know the questions, then you're not going to worry about it. You'll be confident when you ask the questions. If you don't know what the questions are, in the description I'm going to put a link to my website page with all the questions and answers on, so you can read them at the same time. So the fourth one is practice the independent driving that's on the UK driving test, and it's either going to be road signs or it's going to be sat nav. So practice it, whether with your parents, family member, or the instructor. You should be practicing this so that you're used to the idea of following signs, or you're used to the idea of following a sat nav. If you've not been doing that, then you need to be practicing it, because all these things I'm talking about, if you know you can do them, your confidence is going to be quite high. You'll know you can tackle this driving test without worrying about it. One of the things the DVS say that you should do is mock tests, and they're great, yeah, but not a lot of people do them, because I've had people come to me who've took 2 or 3 tests with someone else and they've never done a mock test ever. So if you get the opportunity, take it. A month before your driving test, you should be doing at least 1, 2, maybe 3 if you got the chance. You know, it takes a bit of time up, but the experience that you're going to learn from it will help you to cope with the pressure on the driving test. And I say to lots of people, don't expect to drive as good as you normally do in driving lessons, because the pressure of the driving test mock will put you off. And it's a bit like that on the driving test. The pressure of the driving test will put you off. But if you practice your mock tests, get good at them, it will definitely help you for your driving test. Whatever test centre you're actually taking the test in, there's always an unusual layout in that area. So know the roads within a mile of that test centre, that radius of it. It could be tricky junctions, it could be tricky little mini roundabouts, it could be big roundabouts just near the test centre. You know, wherever test centre you're at, know the layout, the area, because if you don't, you're making it hard on yourself. But if you do know the layout, it's going to feel more relaxed, because you'll know what's coming sometimes. You know at the end of that road, it's a tricky junction, I've got to stop and look, because if I don't, there's a chance I'm not going to be able to do it correctly. So know the layout of the area within a mile radius. I briefly talked about knowing the area within the test centre within a mile, but if you've got a tricky roundabout, whether it be in the town centre, on the outskirts, and you know it covers one of the test routes, or maybe two, then practice that roundabout. It could be a big spiral roundabout, it could be a big double roundabout that you know everyone goes for it, everyone talks about it. If you know that roundabout's going to come up possibly on your driving test, get quite good at it. Don't leave it for chance, because you can almost guarantee it'll come up on your driving test. I do recommend this to some people, is have passengers in the back of the car when you're good enough to drive and your instructor says you're definitely good enough to drive. Ask, can you have someone in the back of the car as a start of your driving lesson, because extra pressure of someone watching you will help you cope with the pressure on the driving test. You'll suddenly get used to different people in the car, because up to that point it might have been you've had your instructor next to you all the time, or your mum or your dad with you, and then you go to the driving test and a stranger, the examiner, sat right there saying to you, right, we're going to drive off, and all of a sudden the first 5-10 minutes you're getting nervous because it's a stranger. So if you can, have your person in the back of the car, providing that you've asked for permission in advance, either off your instructor or your family member, and that extra experience will help you cope with an examiner who's going to be a stranger to you at that point. A couple of days before your driving test is write down what is going to happen on the driving test day. So if you've got your test at say 10 o'clock, write down what time your instructor's picking you up, or what time you're setting off with your mum or your dad to the test centre, and give yourself some extra time to actually get there. Don't say, right, I'm going to do it exactly down to the minute, because it might be you set off and there's a traffic jam on the way because there's been an accident. So give yourself time, write down the timeline, like at half past 7, I'm getting up, breakfast, get myself ready, make sure my license is ready, all these things that you're going to write down, so that when it comes to say 8:30 in the morning, you're ready to set off to go to where the area is where you're going to take your driving test, and give yourself a bit extra time to arrive there so you're not rushing, because if you're rushing you're going to panic. But if you stick to your timeline, you're going to feel happy, you're going to feel confident, you're not going to be worrying. The final one then is your driving instructor. You would have booked your driving test with the permission of your instructor, or if you've already booked your driving test and you're having driving lessons, make sure your instructor is available in advance. Don't suddenly say to them, oh, my test is next week, because they'll kind of say, well, I'm sorry, I can't make it, I've got lessons. So make sure when you're speaking to your instructor, it's written down in their diary or it's in their iPad, so that they know exactly when they're picking you up. They know the exact day, and they know they're not suddenly going to turn around and say to you, I'm on holiday that week, or I can't make it, I've got a driving test that morning. So make sure these things in advance are all done, so that all these 10 points I talked about, it'll help you to stay calm, knowing what's going to be going on the driving test, and staying focused. So when you take your driving test, you're not worrying about little things, you're just going to go in there and take your driving test. Good luck. I hope this helps you. If it does, fantastic. Take care, everybody.